According to insider sources, despite the unusually swift arrests of Central Military Commission Vice Chairman Zhang Youxia and Joint Staff Department Chief Liu Zhenli, Xi Jinping has still failed to genuinely bring the military under his control. His authority now rests primarily on purges and fear, rather than prestige or legitimacy. Within the armed forces, there has long been private discussion questioning Xi's lack of military experience and operational competence. What we are witnessing is an eruption against the backdrop of extreme mutual distrust, followed by forced control, a situation that closely resembles the late-stage characteristics of historical extreme personalist rule. Beyond Xi himself, the person said to be most fearful is Zhang Shengmin, secretary of the CMC Discipline Inspection Commission. Zhang is reportedly deeply unpopular, widely resented, and commands little genuine obedience. Yet, in Xi's comprehensive effort to impose personal control over the military, Zhang Shengmin plays a critical role. He is responsible for monitoring loyalty to the supreme leader. Investigations into the downfall of numerous senior generals have almost all passed through the CMC discipline inspection system. In institutional terms, Zhang functions less like a disciplinarian and more like an informant planted by Xi within the military. At present, only Zhang and Xi effectively remain at the core of the CMC, raising speculation that Xi may even dismantle the commission system itself. Additional leaks indicate that under the current atmosphere of extreme tension and distrust within the armed forces, launching a war against Taiwan is no longer feasible in the short term. Xi's foremost objective now is to stabilize internal dynamics rather than pursue external military adventurism. Meanwhile, the Zhang Youxia case remains unresolved. Both sides are reportedly locked in disputes over the legality of his arrest. Members of Zhang's family and some of his subordinates have openly expressed dissatisfaction, demanding corrective action and his immediate release. Authorities have halted further moves. For the first time, Xi Jinping's claim to absolute authority has encountered a serious challenge, and the risk of accidental escalation is rising. Zhang Youxia differs fundamentally from previously purged military leaders. His father, Zhang Zongsun, was a founding PLA general who fought alongside Xi Jinping's father, Xi Zhangguoxin. Zhang Youxia himself is a veteran of real combat. He is not someone who would simply accept defeat. Even though he has been detained, the matter is far from over. Zhang knows Xi extremely well, likely anticipated this move, and may have prepared countermeasures in advance. At this moment, anyone who overturns the table has a relatively high chance of success. The struggle between Zhang Youxia and Xi Jinping has not yet reached its conclusion, and whether Zhang can stage a comeback remains to be seen. This incident should not be understood as a coup that has already concluded, but rather as a forced initiation of power restructuring. Xi's original intent in arresting Zhang Youxia was to consolidate authority and pave the way for hereditary succession. Instead, the outcome appears to have backfired. In the abnormal upheaval at the apex of CCP power that erupted on January 18, 2026, Xi attempted to secure control of the military by detaining Zhang Youxia. The move appeared decisive, but in fact exposed Xi's severe misjudgment of both the internal party ecosystem and the external environment. This was not a routine purge or an anti-corruption campaign. It triggered a chain reaction of multi-factional balancing, fractured the power structure, and plunged the system into sustained instability. Xi's miscalculations were manifold. First, he underestimated the degree to which second-generation CCP elites and party elders would unite. Historically, these groups often acted independently due to conflicting interests, but this incident crossed a core red line, preserving the party and the regime itself. Factions associated with Jiang Zemin, the Communist Youth League, and second-generation leadership figures rapidly reached consensus, forming a compelled alliance. This unity was not driven by shared ideals, but by collective opposition to Xi's hereditary succession plans. Senior party insiders had long been aware that Xi's designated successor had been placed under special protection in Ningxia, following a trajectory that closely mirrored Xi's own early path. This was widely regarded within the party as a long-term systemic risk. Determined to block a breach of institutional risk thresholds, the elders intervened in an unprecedentedly unified manner. As a result, Xi's countermeasures failed to conclude swiftly and instead entered a negotiation phase. Figures such as Wen Jiabao, though not direct parties to the conflict, were pushed forward as intermediaries. Xi's attempt at a quick resolution instead prolonged the power restructuring process through de facto joint balancing by multiple factions. Second, Xi underestimated Zhang Youxia's influence across party, government, and military circles. Zhang is not an isolated figure. His networks run deep and span both the military and elite decision-making circles. Even without successfully launching a counter-coup, his influence alone was sufficient to shake the entire power structure. This is reflected in abnormal official behavior. Zhang's name has not been removed from official websites, central media remain collectively silent, and no senior military figures have publicly voiced support for the action. Xi overestimated his own authority, assuming that arresting one individual would intimidate the entire armed forces. He failed to account for Zhang's extensive invisible networks. As a result, the purge may stall halfway. From January 19th onward, internal leaks circulated continuously, external rumors proliferated, and official narratives failed to converge. Even if Xi manages to retain his position, his power will inevitably be diminished. He may be forced to relinquish the chairmanship of the Central Military Commission or dismantle the commission itself in exchange for compromise. Third, Xi underestimated the resolve of military commanders to support Zhang. The military upheaval that began on the night of January 18th marked a rupture in authority, yet Zhang's failure did not extinguish support within the ranks. This was not the action of a single faction, but a convergence of grievances against Xi. Within the military, Zhang is widely viewed as a representative figure, and supporting him has become symbolic of defending officers' own interests. This determination stems from resistance to hereditary succession and fear of sweeping purges. If Xi believes loyalty within the armed forces is now unshakable, he has misread commanders' bottom lines. The abnormal state persists, no video declarations of loyalty, no senior officials publicly taking sides. Since January 19th, Xi's sister, Qi Chaoqiao, has reportedly been placed under soft detention by forces aligned with Zhang at a state guest house, which has since been placed under high security. This reflects a tug-of-war of deterrence and counter-deterrence within the military. The seizure of a de facto hostage has drawn the situation into a quagmire of multi-party negotiation. The situation continues to evolve. Reports indicate expressway lockdowns in Beijing, heavy military and police deployments around Tiananmen, and frequent troop movements on the city's outskirts. Information about Zhang Youxia's investigation has vanished from the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection website. Superficially, it appears Xi is dismantling Zhang's military influence, but in reality this is a palace coup launched by Xi for self-preservation. Although Xi simultaneously holds the top positions in the party, state, and military, and appears to wield boundless power, those familiar with CCP politics understand that he is merely the foremost public figure of the system. His authority remains constrained by the party's highest internal power mechanisms. Recognizing this explains why Xi fell into political difficulty last year, when close allies such as He Weidong and Miao Huo were purged. Though Xi appears supreme, he lacks decisive control over the party's political line. One confidant after another has been sidelined, revealing a growing inability beneath the facade of one-man rule. The reason lies in the continued existence of an elder power structure above him. Following He Weidong and Miao Hua, another ally, Ma Xingrui, has also come under severe threat, and even Zhang Xiaojun, former director of the CMC General Office and one of Xi's most trusted aides, has been taken in for investigation. In effect, Xi has become nearly isolated within the military. If true power resided solely with Xi, he would not be in such a passive position. The elder power structure controls provincial and ministerial level appointments, balancing factional power and grooming successors, while determining punishment for officials based on evidence submitted by competing factions. Xi may recommend and attempt to protect allies, but if hard evidence exists, he cannot shield them. This is why senior military figures have continued to fall. This raises the question, was Zhang Youxia's arrest a consensus decision by the elders, or Xi's attempt to eliminate an opponent using borrowed authority? After the incident became public, the Wall Street Journal reported allegations that Zhang had sold Chinese nuclear secrets to the United States. If true, collusion with a foreign power would have been the most compelling justification. Yet CCP state media instead accused Zhang of undermining the CMC chairmanship system and openly opposing Xi. Using opposition to Xi as the charge, rather than treason, defies political logic. For decades, the elder power structure has advocated collective leadership. If they had sought Zhang's removal, they would not have framed it as resistance to Xi's authority. This strongly suggests that the operation was initiated by Xi himself. The elders had placed Zhang at the military's apex to dilute Xi's power. Zhang's downfall was never their objective. Removing Zhang would leave the military entirely under Xi's personal control, contradicting the elders' intentions. Therefore, taking down Zhang would only make sense if Xi simultaneously neutralized the elder power structure. Otherwise, removing Zhang while leaving the elders intact would amount to political suicide. As Xi's allies were successively taken down by the elders, his position began to wobble. With no trusted personnel and no political room to maneuver, panic set in. Losing his sense of security, Xi could foresee a grim political fate. While he could temporarily control the Politburo Standing Committee, the broader Politburo and especially the military remained beyond his grasp. Daily military affairs were handled by Zhang Youxia, leaving Xi increasingly sidelined. The CCP's tradition holds that the party commands the gun, because armed force is the ultimate guarantor of power. Once Xi realized he was losing control over the military, his position became perilous. If Zhang continued to manage military operations, Xi risked being hollowed out, his directives blocked midway, reduced to a commander without troops. To move against Zhang, Xi relied on Qi. Although Zhang controlled military authority, troop deployments formally required the CMC chairman's approval, while Qi commanded the Central Guard Bureau. On the surface, Zhang appeared powerful, but in practice his operational space was limited, whereas Qi could deploy unconventional measures at any moment. If the elder power structure truly represents the CCP's ultimate decision-making mechanism, why would Xi dare to strike? This was his last-ditch gamble. Continued erosion of his authority meant waiting for death. Striking first offered a chance at total victory. By launching an unexpected palace coup, that is, removing Zhang Youxia and further controlling the elders to dissolve the central decision-making coordination mechanism, Xi sought to reclaim supreme power once and for all. Thus, the incident has two layers. On the surface, it involved detaining Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli to reclaim military authority. Beneath the surface, it entailed deploying the Central Guard Bureau to control the elder power structure and dismantle the party's highest decision-making mechanism. Traditionally, the elders wield immense power, but they are not a unified bloc, rather a mechanism riddled with internal rivalries. Controlling them individually is technically straightforward, since their security and daily affairs are handled by the Central Guard Bureau. With a single order from Qi, they could all be subdued. At that point, the party's shadow supreme decision-making structure would effectively cease to exist, leaving no remaining force capable of removing or threatening Xi. He would then truly rule unchallenged. But this is an enormous gamble. Victory means total domination. Defeat means total ruin. Therefore, the arrest of Zhang Youxia is not the end of an episode, but the beginning of a far more dangerous one. The situation continues to ferment and could still escalate into a major political catastrophe. The coming days and weeks will be critical. Whether she emerges as a dragon or a worm, whether he survives or falls, will be decided in this single confrontation. After this battle, infighting at the top of the CCP has reached a boiling point. Internal exhaustion deepens, and amid internal and external crises, party cohesion has fractured, military morale has collapsed, and public confidence is dead. China stands on the eve of a great calamity.